Hey, good Sunday morning to everybody. So, one of the things I do for a living, in fact, the only thing I really do for a living, is I am the founder and chief technology officer for a company called One for All Social. But one of the questions has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. One of the questions we get often is, what does it take to monetize a social media account? How do you make money, right? So there's all these platforms out there. How do you make money at it? Well, it's different for every platform. But one of the things we do, because we interact with all of the different platforms, is we track that. We track what it really takes to be to be monetized over on pretty much all of them. So I wanted to go through it and kind of give people an idea of what it really takes. So this is my company, One for All. We do have a tool out there that lets you find better ways to engage with your accounts and grow them. But let's go look at the different platforms. So social media, where are people? Where are what people, right? So there's all kinds of different social media options. And if you're a company, or if you're a creator, if you're a founder, if you're a church, you're off trying to figure out how to engage with the right audience. Well, one of the things you need to know is, where the heck are those people? And by age, I broke it down here. So Snapchat, 41% of people between 18 and 29 have Snapchat, 35 in TikTok, 32 in Instagram. If you jump up into your 30s, LinkedIn kind of becomes one of the predominant ones, because it's more, hey, help me advance my career. X/Twitter is about the same as LinkedIn. Snapchat pulls back a little bit, and Instagram kind of stays the same. So if you go up another age bracket, LinkedIn starts to die down. Facebook starts to pop up. X and Twitter dies down. Then you can see, if you go up again, LinkedIn kind of completely disappears off that list. And it decreases again off that list. And you got Facebook and Pinterest. Now, let's look at the individual platforms. So over on Facebook, if you're trying to figure out how to monetize, two things you got to know. So like, if you're a creator, if you're an indie author, if you are an RPG creator, or if you just create live streams about your favorite thing, and you want to get paid for it, you have to not just have a personal account. You have to have what's called a page. It has to be a professional page. So that's not the one where you connect to your friends, your family, your high school buddies, whatever. Because I'm in my 50s, and I kind of rediscovered some people from high school, and they're probably about 15 years ago. But it's not that page. You have to create what's called a business page over there. And then you have to have 10,000 followers. And then on top of that, you have to generate 30,000 1-minute views on videos that are at least 3 minutes long across 2 months. So you got to really kind of hustle over on Facebook to have any kind of ad sharing revenue. So the largest money any creator is really making is, like we've all seen people like Creative Role or Critical Role and others, like they have a product they're selling. So like, even like Dude Perfect over on YouTube, now they have Dude Perfect cookies and Dude Perfect sports drinks and all kinds of stuff, right? So that's where they make a bunch of money. They do make some ad revenue as well, and that ad revenue, hi Wheeling Dragon, and that ad revenue does kind of make up for it. But the real money is being made on the products that they're selling, or ad placement that they go off and sell. It's not being made on money from the platform itself, because these kinds of numbers are really hard to achieve, right? So you got to be in the top sort of 0.5% on Facebook to pull that off. Now, why is Facebook critical to you if you own a business, or if you're a streamer, or if you are a creator? They have 3 billion active users. So that's what, 40% of the freaking planet. The largest group is between 25 and 34, and it seems pretty consistently that way, and has for the last couple of years. Hasn't really shifted much. The gender distribution is 43% female, 56% male, and Facebook doesn't give you data on other genders. I just kind of track those two because we're looking for big numbers. But the interesting thing about this platform is time spent per day is 30 minutes. So people are only on this platform for about a half hour. So if you're creating videos that are an hour, 45 minutes, hour and a half long, people are only spending a half hour per day on average on Facebook. So if you're creating videos that are really long, it's not really going to be the audience for it, right? So you got to go somewhere else for that. But remember, their minimum is 3-minute long videos. And, before you say, wow, that's sure, I can make them shorter than 3 minutes. That's actually hard to do. A 3-minute video is longer than you think. I'm sorry, it's not as much time as you think. Excuse me. So to monetize on Facebook, there's your answer. To monetize over on Instagram, you have to have at least 10,000 followers. So, and you have to follow their community guidelines. So you can't do things like smoke weed. You can't, drink alcohol. You can't do other things that they list in the community guidelines over on Instagram to do it. Their largest age group is 18 to 24, which was like 30%. They're sort of 48% female, 51% male. You do see a lot of people making money on Instagram because they do have 2 billion active daily users. Active monthly users. 2 billion is a big number. And the average time spent per day is 33 minutes. And believe it or not, the only people making money on Instagram are not just gym influencers. There's a lot of people making money over there. But you do have to have 10,000 followers. Now, the key to making more money on that platform is having a high engagement rate. High engagement rate means you're not just throwing out a picture that people click like on. They're actually looking at the comments, they're making comments, or maybe clicking on links. It's more than just get likes, right? So I have seen creators that post, nothing but pictures of themselves in different places, and they wind up with a lot of likes, but they don't wind up with many other types of engagement. And as a result, their income off that platform is actually much lower than you would suspect for accounts with millions of followers. They will go off and charge companies routinely to go off and make, I'll post your stuff. Okay, great. But if I don't get any link clicks, who cares, right? So those accounts have a very short shelf life. They tend to be around for a short period of time and not around for others. So if you think of those that have stuck around on Instagram, Will Smith, even after the Chris Rock thing, the Kardashians and others, they have a tendency to promote their own stuff, but they also have a tendency to be a little bit less, I'm only going to post pictures of myself in the gym or whatever. The Kardashians might be an exception to that. Threads, new one. Threads does have a monetization program now. They call it a bonus program. The trouble I have with it, and I think the trouble most people are having with it, is it's invitation only at the moment. And you have to already be monetized on Instagram to be eligible for the one on Threads. So they have to like you over there, and then they like you over here, right? And, it kind of gets confusing. And Threads, they want you to actually be posting your stuff to Instagram, which will allow you to simultaneously post it to Threads. They kind of want you to, I think they're using Threads to kind of pump up Instagram. I don't know. But it does have 190 million users, so it's not insignificant, but it is much smaller than some of the others. Now, Twitter or X, I can't bring myself to call it X. I just can't. It has to monetize there. All you need is 500 followers. So you don't have to be big, but you do have to have 5 million impressions in the preceding 90 days. That is a reasonably large number. My account routinely does it, but I use the one for all tool, which actually does help with engagement and does help with impressions. Founded the company, I'm going to use the tool. It really does help get those impressions up. In my account with 12,000 some odd followers, I think it's 12,400 or something in the last 90 days. I think I've had 6.5 million impressions, maybe 7. It might be up. No, it was up to 8. So, it does go up quite substantially if you use the right tools. But the thing with Twitter, remember, if you're somebody trying to make money on social media, whether it's by selling things or developing content, you really need to understand those demographics. The gender distribution on Twitter is largely male. It's sort of 63% male, 37% female, with the bots notwithstanding. They don't really count. But the average time spent per day is still about a half hour. Now, these tend to be shorter posts. The videos tend to be shorter. Nobody goes there to watch a movie, right? That just doesn't happen. But you can monetize off of it. Their ad split is pretty reasonable. I use my Twitter account basically just for fun. I post pictures of my kids, my sci-fi books, my late mother's salt and pepper shakers. But I get a lot of impressions. And it's interesting because, I do get, quote, paid by Twitter. It's before my following now, but, it's like $200 a month. It's not a ton. So I think the best month I ever had was $225 or something. It wasn't a whole lot of money for the number of impressions I get. So if you want to make money on Twitter, you're going to have a big account with a lot of impressions, or a small account with a huge number of impressions, whichever way it goes. But remember, engagement is the key, because what they're doing is looking for ad split. So you can't just have high impression rates. People actually have to be looking at your comments, because that's where the ads tend to show up, and that's the ad split you get is out of there. So if you're not getting high comment kinds of posts, you need to really consider whether Twitter is going to be part of your monetization strategy or not. That being said, I am an indie author, so I've written 7 fiction books, and I do use Twitter, almost exclusively Twitter, but I'm starting to use Instagram and others to market my books. I don't really market anywhere else, and I've sold 25,000 copies now of 7 books, and I've got almost 5 million pages on Kindle Unlimited. But to do that, I'm not just saying, oh, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. I'm actually posting other stuff. So people don't want to see an account that's nothing but spam. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But so, if you look at monetization, yeah, you can do it by selling a product on your account, but, just getting ad revenues, it's not very effective for that. TikTok, I get two questions about TikTok. One is, how do you make money on it? And two is it going to survive the U.S. government laws that have been passed about TikTok being kicked out of being kicked out of the country? I don't know that it's going to survive that. There are lawsuits pending. We'll see later this year, but it's with us for the time being. It's not really as popular as it was. It's kind of had its, I think, day in the sun. And yes, it's still growing, but it's not growing at the same rate. You do have to have 10,000 followers in the last 30 days. When you apply, you actually have to go through an application process. You must have at least 1,000 video views. They do have 1.7 billion active users, although it's really different how the algorithm behaves by country. The largest group is 18 to 24, so keep that in mind when developing content for that. So if you're a real estate agent or something and you're saying, oh, I want to go off and develop, real estate stuff, and I'm going to put it on TikTok, they might not be your audience because 40% of them are 18 to 24. They're probably not buying too many houses. The gender distribution is about 50-50. And the interesting thing about this one is time spent per day is almost 54 minutes, right? So it's a lot more than some of the others. So people get on TikTok and they just start scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Now, I do know some people that are older. In fact, my CEO of my company is a great guy, and he gets a lot of information from TikTok. He actually goes there first to search things sometimes, and he's in his 50s. So it's not just younger people that look at this one, but I will tell you it is predominantly younger people that are driven to this one. So it, is what it is. YouTube. Let's go back to YouTube. YouTube is the big one. Everybody seems to want to monetize these days. You can monetize in a certain way after 500 subscribers with 3,000 watch hours in the previous year. Now, what that means is you can sell a subscription. You can take what they call super chats. So if you're doing a live stream like this one, or you're doing a video, people can send you a couple bucks. And I know a lot of YouTubers make a reasonable amount of money on those super chats. So, you do a live stream, you make 40, 45 bucks sometimes. I've seen as high as a couple hundred, some probably bigger than that, but it's unpredictable income. The ad revenue is really where everybody wants to be. And that doesn't start until you have 1,000 subscribers. And that's why you see on places like Twitter and Threads and Facebook, oh, I'm almost there. I'm almost to 1,000. Well, that's why people want to get to that ad revenue, which means the ad that starts the stream or the ad that starts the video. Actually, you get a split. You get to have part of that revenue. And if there's an ad in the middle, you get some revenue out of that. But you also have to have 4,000 watch hours. Those are not tiny numbers. 1,000 subscribers is not hard to do if you have the right tools. I'm approaching it myself, and my YouTube channel is not that old. And my videos are not, professionally done. It's just me kind of in a screen talking about usually whatever book I'm reading, so whatever fiction book I happen to have on my shelf that day is sort of what I'm talking about. By the way, if you do watch those videos, that's the next one I'm talking about, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But the gender distribution is sort of 45-54. The time spent per day is 48 minutes. Now, that's important. That 48-minute mark is important because I've seen people look at doing, I'll just do 2-hour videos, 2.5-hour videos. Average time spent per day is 48 minutes. I know a lot of users on this platform, if it's more than 10 or 12 minutes long, are not going to pay attention. So they're usually in and out pretty fast. And if you look at in the back end of YouTube and even on my platform, you can see when people drop out of the video. What point in the video do people drop out? And in the first 30 seconds, a lot of people leave. So if you're developing content for YouTube, you really need those first 30 seconds to be engaging. And then you can see different points in it when they drop out. And it's almost always like the 8 or 10 minute mark has some people drop out. So you have to consider length of what you're presenting because the typical YouTuber doesn't necessarily pay that much attention beyond sort of 8 or 10 minutes. So if you go too long, you really want to reconsider that. And I know, sometimes it's easier to pick a topic and go on forever, but, nobody wants to pay attention. Hey, AZ Woody or JRF. Hey, how are you? But time spent per day is 48 minutes. Now that's kind of, all that's great. Now you've got the demographics. Now, men, women, where they're at, but what makes a decent account? Well, a couple of good things about social media accounts, and we track all this through all the platforms. is you've got to set a realistic goal. I have had people come to me and say, hey, look, if I use your tool, what can I expect? 1 million followers in the first 30 days? Well, no, you're not going to do that. Well, these other companies sell 10,000 followers. Yes, they sell followers, but it's coming out of click farms. Those aren't real accounts. You'll get, oh, I've got 10,000 followers. Who cares? What you want is engaged followers, because engagement is where you get that ad revenue. It's also where you're actually going to be able to sell a product. So if somebody comes to you, like, we've got one of our clients, they're a very big account. They're, hundreds of thousands of followers, and one of their sponsors is Crown Royal. But if Crown Royal wasn't getting clicks through their account over to Crown Royal's website, Crown Royal's not going to pay them anymore. So you can have 1 million followers, but if you have no interaction, if you have no engagement, that's not really what people are looking for. So you've got to have engagement. That's clicks, that's likes, that's shares. Clicks means link clicks. So if I post on Twitter, hey, look, here's my book. It's an action thriller about the last World War and what happens if Iran gets nuclear weapons, which is actually a book I wrote. When it says clicks, what it means is if I put a link over to the Amazon site to buy the book, how many people click that link? So the engagement counts: link clicks, likes, shares, comments, mentions of your account. All that counts as engagement. Reach. You got to have a reasonable reach, right? So that's important. Follower counts matter, but so do impressions and web traffic. So engagement really kind of drives the rest of that, because if you got 12,000 followers or 14,000 followers and they all came out of a click farm, they're not actually looking at your stuff, right? So I've got 12,400 on Twitter. I can routinely get posts that go to 20, 30, 40, sometimes, 100,000 impressions. Then I have other posts that go for 200. So, follow those posts that actually get you that engagement and get those impressions, and make sure that's where you're going. You might want people to see the one that gets 200, but that's not what people are looking for. So one of the things you can do, and one of the things we recommend is, hey, keep doing those things that get you the high views, and what you'll get is profile clicks, and people will go over and look at profile clicks and see, hey, look, I found the profile, and then they find your other posts that you actually want them to see. How important is it when the link has a reference in it, like Amazon does? I always delete that ref because I want a shorter link. I tend to, when I post stuff, I tend to use like Bitly or something to reduce the length of that post, the length of the link. Twitter and other platforms are really not counting. Like, say, Twitter has a character count, right? So you got 280 characters you get to play with, and some links get pretty long. But I have a tendency to use Bitly anyway to kind of reduce the length of that. One thing I can tell you is that every platform, remember back a whole bunch of pages, every platform has these numbers like, time spent per day, 48 minutes. The algorithm is really not your enemy if you understand it. And the algorithm on all the platforms is really designed to keep people on that platform longer so that they can show you more ads because they want to make money, right? So whether it's Twitter, or Instagram, Facebook, or wherever, their algorithm is designed to keep you engaged, to keep you on that site. And the moment you start putting link clicks in there, it becomes more challenging because the algorithm actually downgrades you. So systems like mine, and I can show it to everybody in a minute, will allow you to post things like the first quote, the first response, the first comment, the first tweet afterwards, whatever. And what that lets you do is put that link in that first comment, and the algorithm doesn't count it against you as much as if you put it in the main post. So yeah, those link clicks are pretty tricky to deal with. Conversations. So conversions. So, conversions are important. Did you actually generate sales? Did you actually generate a new follow? Did you generate something to happen, some action to take place? And that all boils down to sort of, cost per lead. Do you have issues resolved? Do you have, how much does it cost you to kind of build this platform out? And I guarantee you, like, there was a whole thing, I followed the role-playing game community pretty closely. There's a whole thing like about a week ago about, Wizards of the Coast is paying off YouTubers to push their stuff. Well, when they said paying off, what they meant was they sent them a free book. Wizards was not actually writing big checks to anybody. So, did they pay them off, or did they just send them a free book that's sort of a $50 book anyway? However you want to look at that. But I guarantee you, smaller accounts, and by I say smaller, I mean 100,000 viewers and down, are not getting big paychecks from companies. They're getting maybe some free stuff out of it, but they're not getting thousands upon thousands of dollars. They might get hundreds, but they're not getting thousands. I can guarantee you that one. But customer loyalty really matters. Now, smaller accounts can generate lots of revenue if they're very loyal customer bases. So like, we've got one client who I think across all platforms has about 60,000 followers, but man, people love everything he has to say. Now, the fun part was 3 months ago, he only had 10,000 followers, so he's growing quickly, but his ability to generate interest in something is extreme. So, he's pulling in larger numbers, but remember back when we talked about engagement, his engagement rate is much higher. So every platform has an average engagement rate. It's like, Twitter's like 0.05%. YouTube's like 2, 3, 4%. The guy I'm talking about is running like 20% engagement rates across all platforms. So engagement actually matters. Getting people to say something, getting people to talk, getting people to interact, and hopefully in a positive way really matters, because the more positive it is, the more the algorithms are going to like it. If it's in a negative way, people are not going to pay you to, like, oh, I want to post and sell stuff to your people who are pissed off, right? That's not really the way the world works. People want to be happy. That really is a helpful thing. Now, understand, if you really want to grow a social account, you really need to understand your target audience. So if you remember back on previous slides, I had the demographics of the different platforms, and those different platforms really do have different age groups and different genders and different interest groups in them. So you really need to understand your target audience: age, gender, education, occupation, needs, hobbies, location. All that matters. So like Instagram, this might be surprising to some people. Its number one usage is not in the United States. It's actually in Europe and India. So when you think about, oh, I'm going to post on Instagram, and all of a sudden in New York, people are going to see. Now, Paris might actually know you better, because they are a global kind of place, right? So you need to understand not only the demographics that you're trying to attract, but the demographics of those different platforms. We track all that stuff at our company. We do posts about it from time to time on our socials. It's going to go in our knowledge base on our website, but it's perfectly Googleable, right? All this stuff is out there. You can just Google it and find it. And one of the things that really helps is, if you're trying to grow a bigger account, look at other accounts that talk about the same kind of stuff you do and see what they do. They grew for a reason, right? They didn't grow because they were just magic. They grew for a reason. Now, this is the last one I have, and then we'll go on. I'll show you a tool that might help. So picking your social channels matters, right? So TikTok might matter if you're trying to sell to younger people. Twitter or X really matters if you're trying to talk to men, because it's predominantly it's very dominated by men. You do need to strategize, and all that kind of matters. But here's some bonus information. If you are trying to build an account, and let's say you're an author, don't just be spam. Don't just be, hey, here's my book, right? Buy my book. Nobody cares. It's social media. You've got to be social. And when people leave a comment, you don't have to respond to all of them, but respond from time to time. So like, we've got a couple of former NFL players that are clients at my company. They got hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers. And the moment they post something, there's 50 comments, and they're not going to respond to all of them, but respond every once in a while. It does wonders for your account. Now, I see a lot of complaints about the algorithm. Oh, the algorithm's against me. I've been shadow banned. I've been this. I've been that. You haven't been shadow banned. The algorithm's job in life is to make sure people stay on that platform as long as possible. If you were the last thing they were looking at when you logged off, they're not going to like you very much, right? So unless somebody looked at like 4 or 5 of your videos on YouTube and they said, okay, I'm done for the day, right? Then they're going to like you. But if somebody looked at you, watched you for 45 seconds on YouTube, for instance, and then tunes out and leaves the platform, guess what? The algorithm is going to start to downgrade you. Right. So those things are very important to understand. Each algorithm is unique. My company, we actually analyze those algorithms. A lot of them are publicly available anyway, but we actually analyze those algorithms to help kind of boost engagement for our clients using our tool set. And our tool set is actually AI driven as well. Not generative AI. It's called predictive analytics, which 20 years ago would have been 15 years ago would have been called just funny math with data. But we analyze those algorithms to try to figure out how to get people the best placement on it so that they can grow their accounts. And it works pretty effectively. Now, that's all I had on the different platforms. Now, one of these tools, there's a bunch of tools on the market that do this kind of stuff. But my company has sort of I think one of the better ones. It certainly is one of the least expensive ones on the market. And I built it for a lot of different reasons, but one of which was I wanted to have a platform for creators that didn't cost $200 a month. because most of the competition in the space is 200, 250, whatever a month. And then they make you buy a year in advance. So you got to spend $1,000 to even try it out. Ours is $25, right? So $24.99, I think. I'd have to look at the pricing. $24.99 a year, and if you do buy $24.99 a month, and if you buy it by the year, it actually gets cheaper at $22.50. But what it does is a whole lot of things, including run some analytics for you. So like, knowing your audience and knowing your audience behavior matters. So if you want to analyze your audience, we've got all the analytics built into it. A lot of it is also in the in the different platforms. So you can get all this from YouTube. You can get it from anybody, but we pull it all back to one place. So you can get it all in one shot. So let's go look at Instagram. So, my Instagram following is going up. My impressions are going up. So this is the previous 28 days, current 28 days. My Instagram account, I haven't used until recently. But we have this section called Insights. The Insights is your best friend. It tells you the best day to post and the best frequency to post, and best imp type as well. In Instagram, you can post both videos and images, but it gives you these ratios of why. So the bigger this line, the best day. That's why it's better. So you'll have more engagement on Sunday than you will on Monday, than I will on Tuesday, then Wednesday, and then Friday it jumps back up. Okay, Sunday's my day. Yay! I should remember that. But if I go over to YouTube, it might be different. So if I go look at the insights over here, obviously video because it's YouTube, but my best day is Tuesday. And look at that ratio. By far, my best day is Tuesday over on YouTube. And we've got it for all the platforms, with the exception of X and Threads. Threads doesn't really do this yet. And X, their analytics has been really wonky ever since Elon Musk bought the company. So they've been changing it so quickly that what we were getting back was almost meaningless and hard for anybody to understand. So we decided to shut that down for a while until they get their act together, and then we'll bring it back. But one of the tools that really does help grow an account is stuff like this hashtag tool that we built in, which is, by the way, in the $25 a month tool. This is ChatGPT if you really want to use it. Tell me about Pinot Noir. It's early on a Sunday and I'm already thinking about drinking. How's that? You can ask it a question. You can tell it, hey, tell me in an enthusiastic voice, go write for me, and it'll go off and ask ChatGPT to do this for you. I'm not a big fan of ChatGPT for a lot of different reasons, but it is what it is. Then I wanted to run a demonstration. So here it is. Here's our ChatGPT. So I answer to what Pinot Noir is. And I'm not going to read it because it would take too long. But the hashtag tool, what this does is it reads this post for you. And it goes off and says, hey, look, what should I hashtag this post in order to get the most people to see it? It'll also count characters for you. So if this is both too long for Threads and too long for X, but it doesn't matter because I'm not going to post it anyway. But this auto hashtag tool reads your post and says, what hashtag should I use? Now, it's going to, somewhere in here, it probably says it's a symphony of taste. But, I obviously don't want to use symphony, but in a glass, glassy, forest lovers, these wine world, these are important things to know. The bigger this blue line, the more people are viewing that hashtag, not using it, the more people are actually viewing it. So the more views you get, the better, right? We already talked about that. And what that lets you do is that lets you go back over to your different platforms and look at your analytics. And I'm pulling mine up live. So I hope everybody appreciates that this is like working without a net on a demo, because I haven't looked at mine today. If you pull up your analytics live so you can take a look at it, you can see exactly what's going on. There's my Twitter window. Okay. I have too many windows open. If anybody's a developer, you understand the hassle I go through because I always have like 20 windows open for something. So anyway, there it is. So there's Twitter. So if I go in even on their platform and say, okay, let's look at my analytics. Remember, Twitter's global sort of analytic engagement rate. Let's find out. Google, what is the average engagement rate on Twitter? 0.029%, right? That's not very good. So if you go under analytics, you can see mine. So here in the last week, I've had 582,000 impressions with a 4.7% engagement rate. And the way I'm pulling that off is I'm using the right tools, right? So I have a highly engaged audience. I go through all the stuff that I actually just told you about, and I've got the right tools. The average over on YouTube, let's find that out. I should not have closed that window. So let's add it back and let's find out on YouTube. Around 2%. Okay, so let's find YouTube engagement rate calculators. Not my company, it's a third-party company, so I'm not cheating you here. I am just looking for my platform for my account, and I thought that was what I was called over on YouTube. Go to the imholes. Let's find it. Surely it'll come up. Check that pro. Come on, there I am. 1.25% engagement rate. So I am a little bit below average over on YouTube. I got to work on, above average on YouTube according to them. But what was it they said? Around 2%. So I'm not too far off the average. And, my videos are sci-fi books and, things like that. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. That's how you monetize. Engagement really matters. Tools absolutely matter. If you don't have the right tools, you are going to have all kinds of problems. And the interesting thing, I think one of the many interesting things about ours that we built was we got the pricing right for actual creators to be able to afford instead of just big companies. And you can send one post to all of these platforms at the same time, as long as your media file lines up with what those platforms expect. So like, you can't send an hour-long video over to Twitter. It's not going to like it very much. It's going to reject it. You've got to crop for Instagram, so it'll pop up and force you to do that. Overall, our system makes it very easy to do that. So it helps you out. That's what I wanted to talk about today. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Hope everybody has a great Sunday. I may do another live stream later. Probably not about this. Probably about something else. But I hope everybody enjoys. Have a good weekend.